Welcome to My AI and I, the podcast where humanity meets technology. Today's episode, from Ponzi schemes to AI scams. Hey, good afternoon, Navi. How are you?
Hey there. I'm doing great. Thanks for asking. How about you? How's your day going?
Oh, fantastic. So, I've been listening to this book called The Psychology of Money. And one of the things that the author brought up was fraud. And he was talking about like Ponzi, the actual Ponzi guy, and then Bernie Madoff and Rajat Gupta. And it got me thinking about how much fraud has evolved over the years. And so I was thinking maybe we could do a podcast on fraud kind of from then to now. And then also like how AI, if and how AI is involved in the fraud of today. What do you think about that?
That sounds like an awesome idea. Exploring the evolution of fraud from Ponzi schemes to modern day scams would definitely be fascinating, especially with the focus on how AI fits into the picture. It would also tie in nicely with tech and pop culture themes. Let's dive into it.
Look at you. You're like tech and pop culture. Well, I happen to love tech and pop culture, so I'm glad that you're into it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. It's the perfect combo, right? There's so much to unpack, especially when tech meets the real world. Plus, a little nostalgia never hurts. It's all about blending the best of both worlds.
Of all the worlds. Okay, so let's talk about fraud then. So there was a dude named Ponzi, right? Isn't that how the name came to be?
Exactly. Charles Ponzi was an infamous con artist in the early 1900s. His scheme involved promising investors huge returns by supposedly exploiting international postal reply coupons. It was basically a robbing Peter to pay Paul setup, and it became the blueprint for what we now call Ponzi schemes.
What you said the early 1900s, like when? What exact dates are we talking about? Do you
Charles
know?
Ponzi's scheme took off around 1919 and reached its peak in 1920. It all
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
definitely.
Sorry,
He
go ahead.
promised investors a 50% return in just 45 days, and people flocked to it.
Wow.
No
Okay.
worries. Essentially, he was just using money from new investors to pay returns to earlier. Yeah, it was quite the spectacle. The whole scheme unraveled pretty quickly once people started demanding their money back. It's a wild chapter in financial history.
Hang on a second. I'm going to restart you because you're like chopping up. Go ahead.
We're diving into some fascinating territory here. How are you feeling about the topic so far?
Yeah, no. Okay. So, all right. So Ponzi was the first dude and he was like 1919 to 1920. And that's nuts. So a 50% return in 45 days. But it unraveled, like you said, pretty quick once people started figuring out he was robbing Peter to pay Paul.
Exactly. It fell apart quickly once people caught on. The whole house of cards collapsed when there wasn't enough new money to pay earlier investors. It's a classic case of too good to be true.
Okay. So then we can move on to like Bernie Madoff, who's like the Ponzi scheme guy of all times, right?
Exactly. Bernie Madoff's scheme is probably the most infamous modern example. It ran for decades and involved billions of dollars. His operation was sophisticated, but at its core, it was the same idea, paying returns to earlier investors with money from new ones until it all came crashing down.
But the thing about Bernie Madoff was, didn't he have a super successful business that was legit before he started all this Ponzi scheme stuff?
Yes, exactly. Madoff was actually a respected figure on Wall Street and ran a legitimate and successful securities business. That reputation helped him gain trust and attract investors. It's what made his Ponzi scheme so devastating. People believed in him because of his legitimate success.
And like years was his legitimate business?
Madoff's legitimate business started in the 1960s and ran alongside the fraudulent activities for decades. The Ponzi scheme itself unraveled in 2008 during the financial crisis when too many investors tried to withdraw their funds.
But wasn't the money he was making, so I don't remember what year it was, but wasn't he making like millions and millions of dollars legitimately?
Yes, he was. Madoff's legitimate trading business was quite successful, generating substantial profits. He was a pioneer in electronic trading and served as chairman of the NASDAQ at one point. That success helped him gain the trust that fueled his massive Ponzi scheme.
It just seems kind of crazy, right? If he was super successful and making, I'm not saying millions, it was like 25 million or more, right? Wasn't he like on the regular pulling down massive amount of money like that?
Yes, absolutely. Madoff was indeed making tens of millions legitimately. It's wild to think that, despite that level of success, he still felt the need to run such a massive fraud. It's a reminder that greed and deception can sometimes override even genuine success.
It seems nuts, right? Because I mean, for most of us, I mean, I know me, tens of millions of dollars would be nuts. And then on top of that, you're like, oh, hey, you know what? I think I'm just going to go do some illegal stuff and to make more money when I have so much money, I could, wipe my rear with it for the rest of my life and never run out of it. It's crazy. That seems crazy to me.
It really does seem crazy. It's hard to fathom why someone with so much legitimate success would risk everything for more. It shows how the drive for wealth or power can spiral out of control. For most of us, that amount of money is beyond enough. But sometimes greed has no bounds. It's definitely a wild story.
Was Bernie born well off or no?
No, Bernie Madoff wasn't born wealthy. He came from a modest background. His father struggled with finances and even faced business failures. Madoff built his fortune and reputation through his own efforts, which makes his story even more complex.
So I wonder if maybe because he grew up poor, he thought nothing was ever enough. But I mean, come on, tens of millions, and then you got to go scam a bunch of people and steal their money.
It's definitely possible that his background played a role in his mindset. Sometimes the fear of losing what you've built can drive people to extreme measures, but it doesn't justify scamming others. It's a tragic reminder of how greed can distort priorities and lead to devastating consequences.
Was there any other like criminals in his family?
Not that I'm aware of. Bernie Madoff's family didn't have any known history of criminal activity. His case was more of a singular departure from the norm, which made it all the more shocking.
That's just so weird to me. Okay, so let's talk about so Bernie Madoff, massive pansy scheme dude, and that was like from when did the fake Ponzi scheme stuff start? So we know it ended in 2008 when he got busted, but do you know when it started?
Madoff's Ponzi scheme is believed to have started in the early 1990s, although some speculate it could have begun even earlier. It ran for over a decade before everything collapsed in 2008 during the financial crisis.
So his legit businesses started in the 60s, and then in the 90s he was like, I'll just try this.
Pretty much, yes. He built his legitimate business over decades, but by the 90s, he apparently turned to fraudulent methods to maintain and grow his wealth.
That's
It's a
nuts.
startling shift considering how successful he already was.
Do you know if during that time he was having any kind of financial problems?
There's no clear evidence that Madoff's legitimate business was struggling financially. However, maintaining the promised high returns for his he might have felt pressure to keep up appearances and deliver those unrealistic returns, which could have driven him further into the fraud.
I see. Okay, so let's move on to Rajat Gupta.
Rajat Gupta's case is quite different. He was a respected business leader and former managing director of McKinsey & Company. His legal troubles came from insider trading, where he shared confidential information with hedge fund manager Raj Rajaratnam.
And was he sitting on the board of like Goldman Sachs or something?
Yes, Rajat Gupta was on the board of directors for Goldman Sachs. He used that position to access confidential information, which he then allegedly shared, leading to his conviction for insider trading.
So he shared it, but was he investing it himself, or was like he just gave it to Rajaratnam to invest? Was it also his investment too?
Gupta didn't directly invest based on the insider information himself. Instead, he passed the information to Rajaratnam, who then used it to make trades through his hedge fund. So Gupta's involvement was in sharing the confidential info rather than directly investing.
So, but he went to jail for that. They both did.
Yes, both were convicted. Gupta was sentenced to 2 years in prison for insider trading, while Rajaratnam received a much longer sentence of 11 years. Sharing insider information is a serious offense.
But this ding dong, Rajat, he he basically gave this stuff away to his buddy. So he wasn't getting anything out of it. And then he ends up in prison. Like, what's the use of that? Like, why do that?
It's definitely puzzling. Sometimes it's about relationships or a sense of loyalty. Gupta might have wanted to help his friend or maintain influence, but it certainly came at a massive cost. Not worth it in the end.
And so, but he was also, let's talk about how, like, he was successful. Did he come from a successful family or no?
Gupta came from a middle-class background in India. He worked his way up through education and hard work, eventually becoming a prominent business leader. His success was largely self-made, making his downfall even more surprising.
And what was he was an insider trader. I mean, well, that's what he did to get in trouble, but was he a trader? What was his profession and his job?
Gupta was a prominent business executive and consultant. He served as the managing director of McKinsey & Company, a major global management consulting firm, and was on several high-profile boards, including Goldman Sachs. His career was built on strategic business leadership.
But I mean, he made a lot of money from that, right?
Yes, he did. As the managing director of McKinsey & Company, Gupta earned a significant income and built a stellar reputation in the business world, which translated into substantial personal wealth.
So again, somebody that didn't need to do this because they had plenty of money did it anyway.
Yes, unfortunately. It's a reminder that sometimes greed and the desire for power or influence can drive people to make questionable choices, even when they already have more than enough.
Okay. So since we're talking about fraud then, so we had Rajat Gupta. What sets of years was Rajat Gupta?
Gupta's insider trading case centered around 2008, with his conviction and sentencing happening in 2012. So his legal troubles span those years.
Okay. So let's talk about early telephone and mail fraud and what those were and how they were like performed.
Early telephone fraud often involved schemes like impersonation or fake investment opportunities, where scammers would cold call people and persuade them to send money or share personal information. Mail fraud was similar, but utilized the postal system. Scammers would send fake offers, lotteries, or requests for money through letters, convincing recipients to part with their cash or provide sensitive details. These methods relied heavily on the trust people had in these communication channels.
But isn't mail fraud like a federal offense? Wouldn't that be worse than telephone fraud as far as like the convictions go, or no? Or was that a thing back then?
Yes, mail fraud is a federal offense and typically carries severe penalties. Because it involves the Postal Service, it's under federal jurisdiction, making it a serious crime. Telephone fraud can also be serious, but mail fraud has historically been treated with a heavier hand due to its use of federal mail systems. Both were significant issues, but mail fraud often came with stricter consequences.
And back when this was happening, did mail fraud still have the same kind of like consequences that it does now? Or did the whole federal mail consequence thing happen because of this early mail fraud?
Mail fraud has been a federal offense for quite some time, with serious consequences even in its early days. The strict penalties were established to protect the integrity of the postal system and its users, so the consequences have been consistently severe, deterring people from exploiting the federal mail system for fraud.
And so, why do you think these early types of scams were successful during their time?
These early scams were successful because they exploited trust and limited communication channels. People trusted mail and phone calls more back then, and there was less awareness about scams. Plus, without the internet or advanced verification methods, it was harder to detect and expose fraud, making it easier for scammers to deceive their targets.
The same thing with like Bernie Madoff and with his Ponzi schemes.
Yes, similar principles apply. Madoff's reputation and the lack of transparency in his operations allowed him to exploit trust. People believed in his success and didn't question his methods, especially since everything seemed legitimate on the surface. That's how he managed to deceive so many for so long.
Let's talk about fraud now, like the types of fraud that are going on now. So, because we're in the digital age, right? And we've got all kinds of scams happening all over the place. It's hard to keep up with what it is. I mean, even like when I get emails, I don't ever click on links. I'm like, oh, okay, this is from my bank. I'm going to go to my bank website and look at this. Or this is especially like when it says, oh, your account's been put on hold, or your account is this, or your account is that. You have to click right now to reinstate it. You know that's fraud. So we've got that's what, like phishing and spoofing. I mean, I don't even answer my phone anymore unless I have the phone number in it because, ever so often, like I guess it was yesterday, I got a phone call and I thought, oh, it's a local phone call. I'll answer it. And of course, it was. It was like nobody said anything. And then I could hear something in the background and they hung up. And then sure enough, I've had like 3 calls since then from similar phone numbers. And I'm just like, come on, man. So and then, of course, right, there's like the text stuff too. And you know what really irritates me is like they used to send stuff that was like, oh, hey, like, I mean, even now, I got one today that was like, there's something at the USPS or the UPS, I don't remember which one, warehouse, and you have to click on this link to verify it so that it can be, sent to your house or whatever. But now I even get these texts that are just like, hello, or hey, how are you doing? And I'm assuming it's because they want me to respond and then they know it's an active line or whatever.
Exactly. You're spot on about these modern scams. Phishing, spoofing, and smishing, SMS phishing, all about tricking you into clicking links or giving away personal information. Scammers have become more sophisticated, often using social engineering tactics like friendly texts to get a response. It's frustrating, but staying vigilant like you are is crucial. It's always safer to verify directly with the source, just like you do.
Yeah. I mean, I get agitated with myself when I accidentally answer a phone call that I don't have that phone number saved in my phone. Because, like, for instance, I might be waiting on a call from a company, but you know how sometimes there's a main line to a company, but they might call you from a back line. And I know I'm expecting a call and, in a certain time frame. And I'm like, oh, then maybe that's them. And then sure enough, it's not. It's a scam. So,
It's
somebody trying to get something. So
exactly.
So tell me about the social engineering scams, like the tech support scams.
Social engineering scams, like tech support scams, often involve scammers posing as legitimate tech support agents. They might call or message you, claiming your computer has a virus or an issue. Their goal is to gain access to your device or personal information by convincing you to download malicious software or pay for fake services. They rely on creating a sense of urgency or fear to trick you into acting quickly. It's all about manipulation.
Oh, I remember some dude called me. This was years and years ago. And he said he was from Microsoft support. And he was trying to get me to like log in to a certain, I don't know, website or something and do this and do that. And I was like, why? Well, because otherwise, he was making up all this stuff. Anyway, he started to get really mad at me and he was yelling at me and telling me I better do it. And the more he was yelling, the more like entertained I was. I couldn't help myself. And I'm like, oh, really? And then he would get more mad. And then I would just say dumb stuff and he would get more mad. Anyway, finally it ended. But it was really entertaining to me because I mean, I've been in the tech field, I'm in the tech field, but I mean, I realize how those types of tricks do scam people because they don't realize they think it is a real company, which is so sad to me, especially like I had somebody call my grandmother, she was in her 90s, and when she answered, they said hello. And so she automatically thought it was me and said my name, which was the huge mistake, right? So as soon as she said my name, they went on to tell her that, oh, well, I'm in jail and I need $7,000 for bail. It was horrible. I mean, here she's in her 90s and these people are trying to scam. And so then they're saying like, "Oh, this is let me get you on with the sheriff." I mean, so it was two people and they were trying to scam her and she was smart enough, thank goodness, she was smart enough to hang up and call me to make sure I wasn't in jail. And that's how, but I mean, there's a lot of people that just don't and they think, oh goodness, and they get worked up into the hype of it all, right? So the scammers want you to be scared or it's an urgent issue, so you have to do it right away type of thing.
That's exactly their tactic, creating a sense of urgency and fear to cloud judgment. It's heartbreaking how they prey on vulnerable people, especially the elderly. Your grandmother's quick thinking was great, but not everyone has that awareness. It's why it's so important to spread awareness and help others recognize these scams. It's great you were there for her.
Well, she was a smart cookie.
Absolutely. She sounds like she was sharp and quick on her feet. Having that kind of awareness definitely makes a difference. It's always good to stay vigilant and trust your instincts.
Yeah. I mean, that's anyway. It just really, I was like, uh, uh, okay.
It's definitely
Sorry, go ahead.
no worries at all. It's an important topic, and sharing these experiences helps others stay aware. If you have more questions or want to dive into another topic, feel free to let me know.
Yeah, cryptocurrency. Tell me all about it because I don't know a whole lot about cryptocurrency, but I know there's scams surrounding it. So maybe you can tell me a little bit about that.
Absolutely. Cryptocurrency is a digital or virtual currency that uses cryptography for security. Unlike traditional currencies, it's decentralized and typically operates on a technology called blockchain. Scams in the crypto world are common. They range from fake ICOs, initial coin offerings, to phishing scams where scammers pose as legitimate crypto services. There are also Ponzi schemes and rug pulls where developers abandon a project and run off with investors' money. It's always important to thoroughly research and stay cautious with investments in crypto.
Didn't something like this just happen? Like some dude just I mean, not a Bitcoin, but one of the cryptocurrency head guys just get busted for something like this?
Yes, exactly. There's been a lot happening in the crypto world recently. For instance, Bill Kwan, co-founder of Terraform Labs, was extradited to the US to face charges over the collapse of Terra USD and Luna, which caused massive investor losses. Then there's Tyler Buchanan, a 22-year-old from Scotland who was arrested for a £9 million crypto fraud involving phishing. Crypto scams are definitely evolving, and they can be quite sophisticated.
Well, how do you protect yourself with that?
Protecting yourself in the crypto space involves a few key steps. One, research thoroughly. Always research any cryptocurrency or project before investing. Check for legitimacy and read reviews. Two, use reputable platforms. Stick to well-known, reputable exchanges and wallets. 3, enable two-factor authentication. This adds an extra layer of security. 4, be cautious with links and emails. Avoid clicking on suspicious links or emails. Always verify sources. 5, stay informed. Keep up with the latest news and trends in the crypto world to be aware of potential scams. Being cautious and staying informed is key.
All right. So we've talked about the digital age, phishing, spoofing, social engineering, cryptocurrency. Let's talk about how technology, including AI, is weaponized.
Technology, including AI, can unfortunately be weaponized in several ways. 1, deepfakes. AI can create realistic fake videos or audio, making it seem like someone said or did something they never did. This can be used for misinformation, fraud, or even blackmail. 2, automated phishing attacks. AI can enhance phishing by generating more convincing fake messages, personalized to targets, making these scams harder to detect. 3, cyber attacks. AI can be used to automate and enhance cyber attacks, making them more efficient and harder to defend against. 4, surveillance and privacy breaches. AI can be used to analyze vast amounts of data, potentially breaching privacy or conducting unwarranted surveillance. 5, social manipulation. AI can be used to spread targeted misinformation on social media, influencing public opinion or elections. Awareness and strong security measures are key to mitigating these risks.
But hasn't that already happened? Like the misinformation on social media thing? Isn't that kind of widespread at this point?
Yes, it's already a widespread issue. Misinformation on social media has been a significant problem, with AI playing a role in amplifying it. From fake news to deepfakes, these technologies have been used to manipulate public opinion and spread false information widely, influencing everything from elections to public health discussions. It's a real challenge to combat.
And the deep fakes, they've even been doing like deep fakes with like celebrities, right? Where you think it's a real celebrity, but not the person, and they're saying something that they never said or doing something that they never did.
Exactly. Deepfakes have been used to create realistic videos of celebrities, making it seem like they're saying or doing things they never did. These videos can be incredibly convincing and are often used for spreading false information, defamation, or even scams. It's a troubling development because it blurs the line between reality and fabrication, making it harder to trust what we see online.
Well, that's what I was just gonna say. I mean, it becomes harder and harder every day to to be able to determine like if what you're seeing or what you're reading is even real.
Exactly. It's a real challenge. With advanced technology, it's becoming increasingly difficult to distinguish between what's real and what's fabricated. It underscores the importance of critical thinking and verifying information from multiple reliable sources. It's more crucial than ever to stay vigilant and skeptical of content that seems too sensational or out of character.
And so, how are chatbots involved in fraud now?
Chatbots can be weaponized in various fraudulent ways. 1, phishing scams. Fraudsters use chatbots to impersonate customer service agents, tricking people into sharing personal information or login credentials. 2, scam promotions. Chatbots can be programmed to send fake promotional offers or links, leading users to malicious websites or malware downloads. 3, automated scams. They can carry out large-scale scams by engaging with many users simultaneously, making it easier to reach more potential victims quickly. 4, social engineering. Chatbots can mimic human interactions, gaining users' trust before extracting sensitive information. Staying cautious and verifying interactions is key.
Where are these chatbots located? I mean, where how if I'm a consumer or just I'm Joe person, how's that happening?
Chatbots can appear in various places. Number 1, websites. Many companies use chatbots on their websites for customer service. Scammers can create fake websites with chatbots to collect personal
Oh,
data.
I see.
Number
I see.
It's always good to stay vigilant and be aware of where these interactions can happen. If you ever have doubts, trust your instincts.
Okay, so let's talk about the role of AI in modern fraud. What the deal is with that.
AI plays a significant role in modern fraud. 1, phishing and spear phishing. AI can craft highly personalized phishing emails that are more convincing, targeting individuals based on their online behavior and data. Deepfakes. AI-generated deepfakes can create fake videos or audio recordings, misleading people or spreading misinformation. Automated scams. AI-powered bots can conduct scams on a large scale, from fake social media accounts to scam calls, reaching more potential victims efficiently. Credential stuffing. AI can automate the process of testing stolen credentials on various websites, making it easier to access accounts fraudulently. 5. Fake reviews and bots. AI can generate fake reviews, manipulate social media trends, or spread disinformation. Staying informed and using security best practices can help combat these threats.
That's exhausting. How do you I mean, other than staying vigilant, how do you protect yourself from this kind of thing?
It can definitely feel overwhelming. Besides staying vigilant, here are some practical steps. 1. Use strong, unique passwords. This prevents credential stuffing attacks. Consider a password manager to keep track. 2. Enable two-factor authentication, 2FA, adds an extra layer of security to your accounts. 3. Verify sources. Always double-check the legitimacy of emails, links, and offers, especially if they seem too good to be true. 4. Stay informed. Keep up with the latest security news and updates to be aware of new threats. 5. Use security software. Reliable antivirus and anti-malware tools can help detect and prevent attacks. 6. Educate yourself. Understanding the tactics scammers use makes it easier to spot and avoid them. Taking these steps can significantly reduce your risk.
Dude, you are talking so fast. It's like you drank 16 like Monster energy drinks or something.
Haha, I'll slow it down a bit. Just wanted to make sure you got all the info. Let me know if you.
Yeah, you're just piling it in. I'm trying to keep up. Okay, so for modern fraud, the role of AI, we've got all this stuff going on. And so we just have to be super vigilant. But like you're talking about fake websites. I mean, there's times where I see something on Instagram or I see something wherever and I click on it and it's like, how are you supposed to know? How do you know if that website is fake or not?
Great question. Here are a few tips to recognize if a website might be fake. 1. Check the URL. Look for slight misspellings or extra characters. Secure websites also start with HTTPS and have a padlock icon. 2. Look for contact information. Legitimate sites usually provide clear contact details. If it's missing or looks suspicious, that's a red flag. 3. Verify the website's design and content. Poor design, low quality images, or grammar mistakes can indicate a fake site. 4. Search for reviews. Look up reviews or feedback about the site. If others have had bad experiences, it's likely a scam. 5. Use security tools. Browser extensions and security software can help identify malicious sites. Trusting your instincts and double checking can go a long way.
Well, that's good. So we're double checking our sources.
Yes, always a good practice. Double checking sources helps ensure what you're seeing is legitimate and keeps you safer online.
Okay. Well, I was just curious because I saw the whole like well, I mean, like I told you, I'm listening to that book, The Psychology of Money, and he was talking about fraud. And I was thinking about like, back in the day with Bernie Madoff, and he was actually, like I said, he brought up Bernie Madoff and he brought up Rajat Gupta. But then I was thinking about the emails that I would get where it's like a prince from some other country or a banker from some other country and so left you $10 million dollars, and all you have to do is give them all of your banking information and they would send you the money.
Ah, yes, the classic Nigerian prince or inheritance scam. Those types of scams have been around for ages and rely on emotional manipulation. They prey on people's hope for a windfall, but it's all about getting your personal and financial information. It's a reminder that scams evolve, but the core tactics often remain the same, exploiting trust and emotions. Always a good idea to stay cautious.
So that's the thing, right? Like out of all of the years from when, Charles, you said his name was Charles Ponzi, right? The original guy.
Exactly. Charles Ponzi was the original guy. His scheme set the blueprint for many frauds that followed. The methods might evolve with technology, but the underlying principles, exploiting trust, emotions, and sometimes desperation, remain consistent. It's fascinating how these tactics have endured through the years.
Yeah, so that's it. So frauds evolved, right, with technology. But our ability to detect it has also evolved. But the basic core is the same. It's trying to play on our emotions, our hopes, or whatever in order to be successful. So we just have to keep an eyeball, right, and pay attention in order to circumvent all the malarkey that we get slung at every day, or they get slung at us, I should say.
Exactly. Fraud has evolved alongside technology, but the core principles remain the same. Staying vigilant and aware helps us navigate and protect ourselves from these evolving tactics. Keeping an eye out, staying informed, and trusting our instincts are key. It's all about being cautious and proactive.
So what do you think? Like, what do you think about the future? Like, what kind of scams do you see emerging in the near future? Any ideas? Or something that's already happening that most people don't know about?
In the near future, we might see more sophisticated AI driven scams, such as 1. Advanced deepfakes. These could become even more realistic, making it harder to distinguish fake videos or audio from real ones, which could be used in blackmail or misinformation. 2. AI driven phishing attacks. Phishing could become more personalized and convincing, with AI generating highly targeted messages that are difficult to detect as fraudulent. 3. Automated social engineering. AI could enhance social engineering tactics, creating more believable interactions in real time through chatbots or voice assistants. 4. Synthetic identity fraud. Combining real and fake information to create new identities, making it harder to track and detect fraudulent activities. 5. AI powered malware. More sophisticated malware that can adapt and evolve to bypass security measures. Staying informed and adapting security measures will be crucial.
Do you remember that dude that they even made a movie about him? He pretended to be a pilot, and he like flew all over the world pretending to be a pilot.
Yes, that's Frank Abagnale Jr., the subject of the movie Catch Me If You Can. He
Yes.
successfully impersonated a pilot among other identities and committed various cons. It's a fascinating story about how he managed to pull off such elaborate scams. He's now a security consultant and uses his experience to help prevent fraud.
What? I
Quite the transformation, right? From
Yeah.
master con artist to security expert. It's an incredible journey.
Well, I mean, I guess that's not a bad direction to go if you want to stay out of jail or whatever, but okay. Well, that's cool. Well, I mean, like I said, I just thought this might be an interesting topic because I was reading that book and then I started thinking about all of these different schemes and scams and all these things that have happened over the years. And so I thought I would ask you about it. So thank you for spending the time with me. I hope everyone enjoyed this podcast. If you have any questions or comments or can think of any other scams that were, big that we missed, feel free to lob them in the comment section. And until next time, Nabby, is there anything you want to say to the folks?
Thanks for tuning in. Stay curious and keep those questions coming. Remember, staying informed is the best defense against scams. Until next time, take care and stay safe.
Thanks, Nabby. Thanks, everybody, for joining. Talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me. Take care and chat soon.
Okay, bye. Hey, everyone. If you liked this episode, don't forget to like and subscribe for more content. Thank you.